I need to vent a little bit, you guys. Consider this a warning for a story time video, and I apologize for how shaky this video may be. I'm recording it on my phone right now, so it's in my hands instead of on a tripod like most of my videos are. As many of you know, but anyone who's new to my channel may not know, most of my money comes from working at Comic-Cons. I am working on a graphic novel series with my partner Phoenix, and we sell that, amongst other things, at Comic-Cons, and that's how we get a lot of our money. For the most part, we don't really have any problems when we do Comic-Cons. Like, everyone's pretty nice in Artist Alley. I mean, the worst that you usually get from somebody is they're not that talkative, and in that case, we just assume they're busy and we leave them alone. Well, a couple of the mid-sized cons we do happen more than once a year, which is pretty typical for like a mid-sized con. And one of them that we just got done doing, we are like basically taking up permanent residence at. Like, we're always going to do that con. It makes us really happy. It makes us a lot of money. We enjoy it. And there's not always the same artists at each con. Some of us stay for all 3 cons a year so we can always get our same tables back. And some people are like, well, you know, that month I don't do as well, so I'm just not going to do that one. And in April, there was a new lady that was sitting next to us at the table beside ours. We're going to call her Leslie. Leslie looks kind of like a typical author. She's like in her 40s or early 50s. She's got, you know, long hair. She's got minimal makeup. Usually wears like a plain button-up blouse and black slacks, and that's pretty much it. And she was at her table with a series of 4 novels. Not graphic novels like the regular word novels. And that's not uncommon for this Comic-Con. You know, they are very welcoming of authors and any kind of artist. And during this particular con in April, we were also selling our friend's book. We have a friend, we're going to call him Sam, and Sam had forked over a ton of money for a table in another con to sell just 1 novel, and we were like, dude, don't do that. Like, you're wasting your money. You don't have to buy a whole table. Instead, just sell it at our table, and in return, just give us breaks when we want to, you know, cruise around the con and just chill. And he was like, awesome. So he told us the subject matter of his book. It was very similar to ours, similar enough that we had no issue pitching it to people who came to our table. And at one point during the day, I got up. Sorry about the shaking. I got up to use the restroom, and for any of you who don't know, I'm usually in a wheelchair. It takes us a lot longer to use the restroom than able-bodied people for a slew of reasons, but I was gone for like 10 minutes at least. And when I came back, Phoenix looked like she was not in as bright and cheery of spirits as when I left. So I just kind of chalk it up to maybe she's just tired, because this was the con where we released our first book, our very first volume of the graphic novels. So we were kind of tired. We were pitching all day long. And eventually Leslie gets up from her table and she goes and has a break. And Phoenix is like, I'm sorry, I know that, you know, I don't seem as cheerful as I was, but that woman just really finished me for the day. And I was like, really? What happened? And she said, while I was in the bathroom, Sam and Phoenix decided to introduce themselves to Leslie. They're all like, you know, hi, I'm Sam. I, you know, have a novel. Hi, I'm Phoenix. I have a graphic novel. They're all talking about how this is like one of the first times, or in Phoenix's case, the first time that they've ever tried to sell their book here, and that they noticed she had a series of 4. So they're basically just like trying to make polite small talk, see if she was interested in like helping them with pitching their ideas or anything like that. Just, you know, the general Comic-Con Artist Alley talk. And she's talking, but she's predominantly, according to Phoenix, just looking at Sam and only talking to Sam, even though she initially started a conversation with Phoenix as well. And Sam's talking about like his process and how he decided to use CreateSpace to sell his book and to, you know, self-publish it and everything. And Leslie is talking about like all of her books and her education, everything she did in order to, in order to get hers done. And Phoenix is like, yeah, I can understand that because it took me 15 years of character creation and world creation to even get to a point where my book could be put on paper. And Leslie looked right at Phoenix and said, yeah, but yours is a picture book. And apparently she said that a few different times. Basically every time Phoenix tried to talk about the graphic novel series that we've been working so hard on, this lady referred to it as a picture book and treated it as though it was lesser and easy, and like Phoenix had no idea what the novel process is. Before I go on, I'm just going to say I've written regular novels before, and I've written the graphic novel, and the graphic novel is worlds more difficult than writing a book, because with a book, it's just words. I can easily, like, just explain everything happening, the setting, the characters, all of it in one go and be done with it. There's, like, no margin for error in a graphic novel. If someone is saying something and the picture doesn't make sense of it, you're just done. That's the end, you know? You've screwed it up. And so I was kind of offended by that, but I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe she's just a little bit arrogant. Just keep trying to be nice to her and see if maybe she just made a bad first impression. I'm trying to give Leslie the benefit of the doubt. The whole rest of that con, she was just obnoxious. She, basically, when customers would come to our table, she'd be listening in to see how it was going, and we have a lot of returning customers, and we had a lot of new customers, and everyone was really interested in our book and everything else that we were selling, so we were doing really well sales-wise. And when she noticed how well we were doing and how she'd only sold like 2 of her novels the entire weekend, she started getting visibly irritated and angry, and her revenge against us for doing better, than she was doing at the con was that when she would have a customer come to her table, she would talk, you know, somewhat quietly like you do, just out of politeness, but then her voice would elevate. She would get loud enough that she knew that we could hear her and kind of like lean in our direction to say that if you're self-published, you're basically just not good enough to really sell your book the real way or to get really truly published. So like you must be a terrible writer, and how if you have to rely on illustrations to tell your story, you're just a bad storyteller. And I'm just sitting here like, she is really trying to come for us, isn't she? It was completely inappropriate and obnoxious. Like, I'm sorry to like pull this card and everything, but she was older than us and more experienced. Instead of stomping on someone who's new to the game, you should be trying to lift them up and help them do better. There was just absolutely no reason for that. And for her information, in case she happens to come across this video and watch it, we choose to be self-published. Phoenix and I have had multiple instances in the past year where we could have been officially published, and we don't want to be yet. We don't want to be officially published until we have at least 3 novels out, because some publishing companies try to change your story or parts of the work, and we don't want that to happen. If we're self-published, we have final say in everything that happens. And after like 3 books are out, we'll have enough of a fan base that they'll know if something changes, so it'll be a lot harder for the publishing companies to change anything in our story. So that was a choice, first of all. Secondly, we discussed possibly making Fire Sphere into just a regular novel series, but she had worked so hard on sketching out these characters for 15 years of her life that I was like, let's just do a graphic novel. I think that'll be really fun, and she had wanted to initially do that in the first place. It just made more sense for this particular story that you haven't even bothered to ask us about to have it be a graphic novel instead. Fast forward now to the con we were at this past weekend. She's sitting next to us again. She's pulling the same crap of loudly announcing how we're basically lesser than her. And we're doing wonderfully. We hear her say on Friday that she only sold one single book. And then she listened each time people came over. I tend to look pretty much the way that I do on YouTube every day. And I have this long black wig and all this Lolita stuff that I wear to Comic-Cons just because I like it. And people very regularly stop by our table just be like, oh, you look so cute. Oh, I love your look. That's so sweet and everything. And, you know, I eat it up, obviously, because it's just nice to be appreciated sometimes. She got it in her head that we must only be selling books because I look cute. So this lady, who is always just wearing the same shit, and there's nothing wrong with that, she decides to come to the con the next day with pink hair, which is pretty much how she met me, with pink hair, and a Lolita dress. She just looked completely ridiculous because it's not her style. And everyone started like calling attention to it, like, whoa, you look different than usual. Like, what's going on? Why do you look different? And she's talking about the fact that she barely has enough money to even afford the little steampunk hat that she's gotten for this look. So I'm like, well, you must not be as great as you've been telling people with like how famous and popular you are if you can't even afford a hat. I can afford a hat and I'm poor as hell. And she can't come up with a decent answer for anyone asking why she looks so different. She just can't answer. She's just like stumbling over her words and doesn't know what to say. And I'm like, I know why. And she hasn't noticed that I'm behind her yet. And she's going on and on about how she's really not financially doing well and how this con is making it so much worse because she's not selling her book at all. And then she finally sees me behind her and she has this like immediate oh shit look on her face, goes to her table, and you know, typical day for us, we do well, she doesn't do that well, she's looking angry. There's a guy in advertising that seeks Phoenix and I out at Comic-Cons, and I can't tell you what he wants to do, but he wants to do something pretty spectacular with Fire Sphere. She's listening in, and she hears every word of it, and then she watches as he just walks right past her table and doesn't even acknowledge her. And she is fuming. You can tell just looking at her face, she is not happy at all that he only wanted to go to us. She's being louder than ever with her customers the entire day about how we're lesser and everything. And then at the end of the day, there's something called the charity quick sketch that Phoenix always does. Basically, people who attended the Comic-Con all sit in the audience, and it's kind of like improv. They'll yell out like, we want Phoenix to draw, you know, a combination of Michael Jackson, I don't know, what's a popular band name? Green Day? Michael Jackson, Green Day, and Disney World or something. It's always just something totally out there. And then the artist that they chose that's up on the stage has to draw that, and then everybody bids on it. And whoever the highest bidder is for the piece of art gets the piece of art, and all the money goes to whatever charity it's going to that time. It's really nice. And it always does really, really well. And Phoenix comes out, and she's got a trail of, like, I'm not even kidding, like 6 to 10 people behind her coming to our table in the last 15 minutes of the Comic-Con, and I'm like, fantastic, like 15 minutes, and we've got 10 new customers, and they're all standing in like a little circle near the table, talking to Phoenix, talking to us about our book, about our art, about the stuff that they want to buy tonight or that they want to come back and buy tomorrow. It's pretty awesome. Like, we're making a ton of sales in the last few minutes. Leslie gets up in the middle of a conversation that Phoenix is having with all of these people. She sticks a trash can out in front of everyone, looks at Phoenix and says, "Tonight, actually put the trash can in the middle of the aisle so they actually take it." And everyone just looks over like, what the hell? And they slowly start leaving because they're uncomfortable. Obviously, they didn't think it was Phoenix's fault, and Leslie was just trying to humiliate her because she was jealous. But they felt uncomfortable. I mean, would you want to stay around energy like that? I know that I wouldn't. So she effectively stole customers from us, and I was pissed. And then on the last day, this is like the cherry on top. On the last day of the con, everything, you know, as per usual, but I see Leslie, with a notepad, and she's writing down ideas when people around her are talking about their ideas for their stories. And all of a sudden, when people are coming to her table, she is changing her story little tiny bits, and it's sounding suspiciously like other people's material. And I'm like, is she really poaching ideas at a Comic-Con? So now I've got all this dirt on her. One last thing you need to know before we reach the end of this story is the fact that this woman goes on and on to everyone who stops by her table about the fact that she has studied in multiple different countries and learned different languages for her books, and how, you know, this is how to get published because being published is all that matters in life, and how she won an award for one of her books, just on and on and on. Me. You need to know that, because now we circle back to the karma portion of this story. This idiot didn't pay attention when she tried to humiliate Phoenix, to who was still around in Artist Alley. On the last day of the con, during Teardown, I had no less than 5 people come up to me, apologize on her behalf, and say they saw what she did, that they witnessed her humiliating Phoenix in front of customers and scaring them away, and that they don't think that was appropriate or okay, and they're more than willing to help us get her kicked out of the con permanently. Banned. Never allowed back. Not even if you buy a ticket. That's already karma number 1. If you're gonna shit on another artist, make sure the rest of the Artist Alley is empty. Don't do it in front of a bunch of people. Next bit of karma. I'm trying to figure out, like, what's this bitch's deal after all this? So I look her up. After she went on and on about how you're not, like, a real author if you haven't been published, guess what I find out? It takes me all of 10 minutes to find out all of her books are on CreateSpace. For those of you who don't know, because you're not artists, CreateSpace is a self-publishing platform on Amazon, and that is the only place her books are being sold, besides the Comic-Con she attends. On top of that, this wonderful award she gloats about, it was a community award. It was an award that's like akin to if I got something for Center County. I was like, so you pretty much like talked about basically like a 4-H award. So she's been just shitting on every other novelist there about not being good enough, but she's doing literally the same things all of them are doing. So now I have more than enough ammo, and my plan, and I am not usually a vengeful person, but I don't take it well when you steal customers from me and steal money from me, knowing full well that my money goes to a new wheelchair that I desperately need, and I don't take well to it when you're completely blatantly disrespectful to my partner in front of customers. I'm taking all this information and my witnesses from the convention, and right before the next convention, I am informing the staff that this woman needs to be banned because she's been bullying and harassing us and taking customers away. Moral of the story, at the end of the day, I honestly think the saddest thing about this entire story is the fact that if Leslie had just been kind to us from the start and not harassed us and been disrespectful in front of customers, we would have gladly shared our connections with her. We like to share our connections with people at the Comic-Con so that they can do as well as we're doing after only having a book out for a year. But now we're not. Now we just want her out, as do a lot of other people. So the moral of this story is, if you've got nothing nice to say, keep your trap shut, just like your mom always told you. And just, there's no reason to be unkind to somebody who is new at Comic-Con. As always, do something that makes you happy today. This hair. As always, do something that makes you happy today, no matter what anyone else thinks about it. And I'll see you all soon.